All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. Well, good afternoon, Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room on the Adult in the Room podcast. This just days after, of course, YouTube decided to throttle us. So because we showed you video of a crime against Trump supporters on the streets of downtown Portland or thereabouts, and as a result, we showed we said there might be a weapon involved, and in this case it was a BB gun, but and so they decided that they were going to take us off live streaming for a few days, and so now I guess we're back. If you are watching this live stream, please make yourself known in the comment section by all means, because we're last week, 2 weeks ago, or two shows ago, swarmed. So thanks, guys, whoever reported it. Antifa, I got to set up my photo or, my frame a little bit better. Sorry about that. Okay, so great show today. We have lots to talk about. Obviously, there always is. Nick Shirley finds California election mess, and all he does is scratch the surface. There's a war on ice. It continues today. And the people who want to perpetrate that war are still out, free and threatening. Karen's gone wild. Rubio's defense of the West. And rest in peace, Jesse Jackson. So lots to talk about. There's much to bring to you. But first, I want to make sure that my guest, who's Eric Lionheart, who's coming on in just a moment, gets to see some of the worst. I know he's seen, as a combat veteran and a person who's been there, done that, and gotten the T-shirt in Afghanistan, I want him to see what the local guys are putting up with. The police officers, ICE officers. I'm sure he's seen it. He's been back and, ensconced well into his new life. But, I think sometimes evil is evil, and you got to show it. So here's one guy. I'm not even going to get to the point where we talk about all of the horrible things he wants to do, except he definitely has someone he wants to kill, ICE officers. So I'm going to bring him up on here, and we are going to watch this absolute Looney Tunes.
My name is Kyle. I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out.
He's also been arrested because he's threatening officers. So you'll be very happy to know that he's being rolled up by somebody and he's been charged.
They fucked up. Okay.
Excuse
me.
the French.
Watch one of the videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my fucking followers. This is everything I have fucking talked about, and this is exactly what I said was going to happen.
Is that a tack fest he's got on?
Exactly what I said was going to fucking come when we didn't fucking go and march on fucking Whipple with guns.
Yeah, with guns. Okay, so he's we're going to take him off because he cray. Okay, he is crazy. Okay. So that guy's been rolled up. He's Kyle, the Antifa dude. But there's some people who are still out there. They walk among us and they vote and they're scary. How about this chick?
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever. That will probably be a deterrent.
These are nurses.
Be safe. Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote. Anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces,
Yeah.
hands.
That's going to fly, honey.
Or the single ladies wear these ice guns.
Why do they all look the same?
Have a chance to do something, you know, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ice agent. Bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks.
I'm sorry, what? You can put X-Lax in drinks and nobody notice?
Nobody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm. Not yet.
Capacity them, get them off the street for the next day.
Okay, you're a weirdo. Okay, then, wait, I'm not done, because the weirdest one happened in the last few days, and I wrote something about it on PJ Media, and I mean, it went viral. With or without me, it was going viral, but my story went viral as well. So let's take a look. Here's this happened in Washington State.
What am I doing here?
Why are you here?
I was just doing a collision report, ma'am.
Are you guys going to be here much longer?
Till I'm done doing my job.
Because one of the teachers, when I dropped off over there, said y'all been circling since about 8.
Okay, well, I'm just doing my job, so the quicker I do
Your
my
job at the elementary school since about 8 a.m.?
Wow.
I wasn't here.
There was a collision here at the elementary school?
You have a good day.
Imagine being her husband. My God.
I'm going to continue to do my
You
job.
work for us, and you're scaring these families.
Okay. Well,
You
I'm
should
gonna
probably
continue
go
to
do
my
your job where your job lives.
Okay.
Because I don't
so
see that it needs to be right here all morning.
I'm going to explain something.
Mm-hmm.
The person that I was just working with
Mm-hmm.
left approximately 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was a collision report.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing my job.
Can
I
you-
give them all their information.
Can you maybe, like for a second, acknowledge that you could be a really upsetting sight for people right now?
Look, ma'am, I'm just doing my job.
I get it.
So-
I get it. But like for us to be able to collaborate with y'all at all going
Yeah.
forward, you're going to have to show us some humanity. You're going to have to show us that you understand the circumstances and the feelings that you evoke. Because like, it would be so rad to feel like
So
you're
rad.
here for us. It would be so rad to feel like you.
You know, I say rad all the time as a holdover from the 80s, and I have to say, she just ruined it for me.
Guys get it and
Okay.
understand that
Well,
you are
I
actually
am.
the defending line between us and the fucking fascism. But until like that's
Okay.
overt, until
Well-
that's overt that you're part of our community,
Well, ma'am,
then I don't think you should be lingering
with
here.
absolutely all due respect, I'm not going to continue to go back and forth. I'm going to try to finish my job as fast as possible.
Okay.
Okay. Keep in mind that you are cussing. We are in front of a school. So please just
That
keep
is
in
fair.
mind, okay.
I'll give you that. That's fair.
Okay. So the quicker I get this
Isn't
done,
she
I can leave,
nice?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really not trying to bother
What are
you.
you
Okay.
thinking about these kids and these moms?
Look, I get it, ma'am.
You know what moms are going through right now, right?
I do understand that.
I don't, wait, I'm a mom, and I don't understand what the hell that means. What are mothers going through right now? What exactly are mothers going through that are so much more difficult than ever before? No idea.
Overt. Until
Well-
that's overt that you're part of our community,
Yeah,
Well,
jeez.
then I don't think you should be lingering here.
Absolutely
I don't
all
think
due
you should be
respect,
lingering.
I'm not going to continue to go back and forth. I'm going to try to finish my job as fast as possible.
Okay.
Okay. Keep in mind that you are cussing. We are in front of a school. So please just
That
keep
is
in
fair.
mind, okay.
I'll give you that. That's fair.
Okay. So the quicker I get this done, I can leave. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really not trying to bother
What are
you.
you
Okay.
thinking about these kids and these moms?
Look, I get it, ma'am.
You know what moms are going through right now, right?
I do
No.
understand that, but
Yeah.
let me just please. I'll
Better
get this
man
out
than
of the
I
way,
am.
I'll be out of everyone's hair.
I sure
okay?
would appreciate that.
Yep. You have a
Oh,
good
thank you
rest of
so
your day.
much. Okay, so that passive aggressive hag was in Thurston County, Washington, and I just was so offended by her actions. Here's a deputy sheriff in the parking lot of a school, an elementary school in Thurston County, writing reports because that's where they've been asked to be, to write reports, to have a presence of cops at the school so somebody doesn't come up and shoot them up. Except, and you know, that whoever that lady is, whatever, she'll be the first one at the school board meeting saying, I can't believe that you didn't stop the school shooter. Please. It is so offensive to me that this passive aggressive hag deigns to, just speak to this guy this way. And that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to undermine, and everything else. People who wear a uniform which represents authority, because they've just spent the past few months going to protests and protesting Kings, protesting Teslas. They've gone, and especially in Washington State, that's as dumb, a bunch of dummies as California and in Oregon. And this is what they've done to try and stop the officers and agents of ICE and the Border Patrol, etc. Sometimes it's a bad look. You and I have talked about this before. We already know that. Sometimes it's really hard to see some guy getting jacked up by a cop who has just resisted arrest. It's hard to look at. Here's a tip, pro tip. Don't do that, and you won't get jacked up by the cop. Just a pro tip. Now, I wanted to talk to Eric Lionheart. He's a guy, and I've made him wait forever, so I appreciate him coming on today. Hello. And let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a guy who has seen combat. He's a person who has started his own organization to help men and women in uniform. And it could be anybody, any uniform. And he has some thoughts on this ICE operation that has just been, for the most part, put where it should be and in the jails of Minneapolis and Hennepin County. And he's seen it all. He's seen the goofy uniforms, the goofy outfits they like to wear, that and ostensibly to say how much they don't like ICE. Eric Lionheart, thank you. What a cool name.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me here.
Well, okay, so I've shown you, I told you, I said, okay, I'm going to show you these sound bites of these wackadoodle-doos. And I would like you to, in your capacity as a person who is the adult in the room on this issue, please explain to people what you take away from these ghouls.
Well, I think it's a mental health issue. I've never seen anyone that tries to stop a police operation. I have a couple of friends that are Democrats and liberals, very little, but I have a few of them. And it was sad to hear that one of them said, well, cops are just murdering people, right? So I respect them because they're friends of mine. And I think it's what the environment they're just around that gives them this information. I think they honestly, and they're misinformed, obviously, but I think they think there's just a couple guys that threw on body armor, put on a badge and gun, and they started beating people or arresting them, and they truly are not informed. And it's the media that they get, and the way that, look at the mayor from Minneapolis, Fry, the way he's organizing people and agitating people. And that's, these weak-minded individuals listen to these so-called leaders. So then they think their community's under attack, or that these ICE agents are gone rogue. So they're trying to do what they think it's their duty to stop them, where they're completely misinformed. And then the consequences are severe, people are going to jail, severely injured, or death, like it happened in Minneapolis. So, you get these individuals like that lady stopping a cop at a school. If anything, she should be happy that there's a police officer, especially with, that just had a shooting in that hockey rink where that person just started opening fire. So I think police is, they're under attack. And I think that started way before President Trump took office.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. It's been the war on police has been happening since 2015, 2016. And that is just the latest war on police and the defunding of police. And now in my beat's kind of the West Coast, and, they've lost literally hundreds of cops. And they don't have anybody who wants to work for them anymore because they had so disrespected police officers and just forced them to get shots they didn't want if they wanted to work again. And then in addition to that, just said they didn't respect them. And so they wanted them out. So I as a person who has started an organization to pay respect to these people of all manner of law enforcement and military, what do you think you could say to them to allow them to take heart?
It's a good question. That's a really good question. When I left the military, my mom said, "Why don't you become a police officer? You like law enforcement." I said, "There's no way that I could handle what these guys deal with. Uh,
Ha.
Parents and these passive aggressive people filming you and cussing you out when you're actually trying to help them." And again, I felt bad for them because they're misinformed.
Hmm.
And to those people, to answer your question, I think I think if you're on the right side of things and your heart feels like you're in the right spot, and hopefully you have some top cover from the politicians in your area, then stay in the fight, right? You need a tough person to enforce those laws, but at the same time, you got to take care of yourself. And then at the most important thing I can say is at the end of the shift, you need to go home to the people that love you. So if you're not getting that top cover from your DA or your mayor, then I
Yeah.
would say you should leave and come to a place like Texas or a red state where they're going to honor what you're doing and really care for you putting yourself in harm's way.
The postscript on that one, the last cop who was being queried in a 2 minutes of hate exercise by that passive aggressive uh, nag, his boss said he was very grateful that that woman was taking video of her brave moment of speaking truth to power. And the reason he said that was because I know, right? The reason he said that is because he was really glad he could see it so that he could give this officer, this deputy, a commendation, because he's just come online and just started riding solo in his car, his patrol vehicle, and he believes that he acted with patience and grace, the likes of which he hasn't seen, and people other than those who have 30 years experience. And he was going to give him an award for that.
Maybe that's the good thing, right? He was brand new and he hasn't been jaded too bad yet. And you kill him with kindness, but at the same time, after months and years, I can understand why the reasonable person is they just had it. I mean, there's still a human outside of that uniform. And I think sometimes the media paints these officers as robots or dehumanizes them.
Yeah.
So then you have these Karens and these people that attack them because they see the badge as something evil. And forget that it's somebody's son and daughter, the parents that are going home to their kids and they're carrying that with them. And unfortunately, police officers are dealing with some of the worst humans day in and day out. And we should respect those people and we should thank them for what they do. It's a thankless job. And yeah, it's just, it blows me away how many people that I would consider normal everyday people are just going out of their way to impede police operations, and they should be arrested and they should be fined and thrown in jail for a year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll teach them a lesson to say, okay, cops are doing their thing. I should stay away.
I don't need to tell you what your military record is, but you did receive 2 Bronze Stars, one with for valor as well. And you've now started an organization called First There Foundation because you found yourself in a real funk. You didn't know if you were going to be able to make it back from the brink.
Yeah, those little pesky demons of war, right? They you don't really plan for them, and you think you're going to be okay when you leave, and it's I've heard of depression and I've heard of survivor's guilt when I was younger, but when it hit me, and then you find yourself in that hole, and you don't really realize how you got there. All you know is that you're inside this ditch, and you're trying to crawl yourself out of there, and you just can't figure out why, and you can't control your mind, and First There started after a good friend of mine committed suicide, and another teammate of mine was about to do the same thing. And
No.
I just had it. And me, I was there, and luckily I had a good support system. I had faith in God, and just, I got myself out of it. But there's a lot of guys that I know, men and women, that are hurting, and we opened it up to all veterans and first responders, their families, because we put our families through a whole lot when we're in those type of jobs. So First There exists to help people.
What do you do for them?
Well, we do everything that a nonprofit does, but we've taken, I like to say we're a non-conventional nonprofit for unconventional people. And I have found that God truly does work in mysterious ways. And the biggest thing that we found is that helps is plant medicine, mainly ayahuasca and psilocybin.
Oh, good. I mean,
Yeah.
I know some people that's helped a lot of people.
Yeah, there's been some big names that have come out of it, right? Breaking that taboo of it and getting people educated, because it's not what we were sold in the past. It's truly a sacred medicine that's been around for centuries, and if done right, you take it, and it just helps unload that tremendous pressure and weight and depression. And it has for me. I've done it, and I can tell you that it's taken my time away to just really heal and be whole. And drinking, especially, right? I think a lot of veterans struggle with that. Police officers, first responders, they find solace in the bottle because it's just something quick, and unfortunately that's the way that it's a slippery slope. So yeah, it's plant medicine has saved my life for sure. It's got me closer to God more than ever before.
So I understand that some people have to do it multiple times. Have you done it multiple times, or did one time help you, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, I've done it multiple times. I could tell you the first time I did it, I didn't know what happened, but I was scared because I grew up Catholic, so I thought, oh my God, I've sinned, and did I do a drug, and oh my God, why did I do this? But I can tell you that I found the most peace afterwards. I was like, man, how could this be bad if I just feel fine, I feel whole.
Mm.
And then I did it again, and it's just the more I kind of studied it and really learned about what it did and how it made me feel, and took away my depression and my survivor's guilt and just let me come to terms with it. Like I said, it just brought me closer to God. I had a friend that was at the brink of suicide, did it once, and he's like a kid again. He laughs and he has a good time, and and he thanks me, right? And he's just like, I was in one of the worst points of my life, and because of this medicine, I'm better. And it's truly it's a natural thing. You don't get hungover. You can't die from it. Uh, it's just amazing the way it works.
Do you set up the organization of getting these people? Where do they go? Mexico, or where are you?
No, so we just had a partnership with Anandanda Lodge out of Costa Rica. So we have found that when we take the participants to this retreat and having them pretty much unplug from their daily stress of the US or where they're living, where they're going to a resort to just truly heal. And it's a beautiful place. It's near the ocean, it's in the jungle. There's a pool you're taken care of. You're going there to heal, and there's a protocol. It's not like, other government agencies have sold it, and it's not like we're giving them, a drink of ayahuasca and people are just losing their minds running around the jungle. So it's very controlled, and it's very sacred ceremony. And yeah, they're there for 4 to 5 days, and they come back and they're just completely, the best way I can explain is, remember when you were a little kid and something happened, you cried yourself to sleep, where you even had those heavy sighs of relief, and you wake up in the morning, you're just like, oh man, I feel pretty good because you just released all that that weight. That's how this thing works. And it's just, I wish I could tell you a little bit more of how, but it's different for every person. That's why they call it a journey, because every person's a little bit different. And it just finds a way to find that stuff that you've been holding on to, and it helps you let go.
Helps you let go. So how long did it take for you to let go? Because you had a lot of disappointment and such.
Yeah. Well, after the first time that I did it, like I said, I was just a little freaked out, right? Because I didn't know. I had never heard of ayahuasca before. I thought it was, something terrible. And the second time, it just like my body was like, you have to do this again. You have to feel better. And the second time, it's the most beautiful and the scariest experience I've ever felt in my life. And it was just, you can open your eyes, you know exactly where you're at. I didn't see dragons or anything crazy. It was all about my life, and it was all my childhood stuff. And guys that have gone through, we call it Operation Soul Rescue, they've never seen anything about war. It's always been something to do with your childhood. And I can tell you that your childhood, whether you remember it or not, has shaped who you are today, and the way people are and the way they react to things. And for a lot of operators, have had a very traumatic childhood, whether it was one household with one parent, or an abusive parent, or brother, whatever, right? And what they just hardened those kids. And when they join the military and then become in special operations, it's because they want to be the baddest person alive. And you go to war, and you go and you feel alive when you're doing that job. At least for me, it did.
Mm.
But when I left that job, I was just completely lost. And then the friends that were killed over there, it was just really a lot for me to handle. I wasn't, the war to me, I really enjoyed it. I had a good time, but I was not prepared to lose friends of mine that I love so dearly. And all of a sudden I was back in the US struggling, and my friends were gone. And survivor's guilt, like I said, was the thing that I just did not prepare for, which drove me into depression and obviously heavy drinking and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I can tell you that it's just changed my life. And like I said, God works in mysterious ways, and it's
Right.
I'm alive and healthy now, so it's great.
I watch a lot of the Sean Ryan podcast. I enjoy his programs a lot, and imagine you've seen them. And one of the things he said, that when he's talking to these guys offline, he finds out that they have been sexually abused as children. A lot of these guys, especially special operators. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, there's a couple guys that I know have gone through, and it breaks my heart, right? Because I grew up with them. I went through training together, war together, and all of a sudden they tell me, yeah, this person abused me when I was a kid. And I mean, you just feel rage, right? Because you look at them, you're like, you're such a good human being, and you have just been out there battling with me and putting terrorists away, and now you're telling me that someone that's supposed to love you and take care of you was abusing you as a kid. And in fact, one of my friends told me that, and I said, let's go break his legs. I was like, let's just go and let's go do that. And his answer was, no, he's suffering already. I'm a better person. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I have kids. It's like, I'm not going to let you or me waste our lives. So I'm destroying this other dude. So, but again, plant medicine just, it just works. I don't know why it's so, and the government's so anti plant medicine, but the reason is because they need people to stay sick, right? They need to keep people in SSRIs. And I'm not against Western medicine whatsoever. I think there's room for Western medicine, Eastern medicine, and plant medicine. Right? We're a very complex being. And if you heal by doing yoga every day, or meditation, or plant medicine, or floating, or whatever your thing is, if it makes you a better human and a more whole human, then why not, right? And religion, I'm not against religion either. So it's, whatever makes you better.
How do people find out about your organization? Where can they find you?
Sure, they can go to firstthere.org. The first is not spelled out; it's number 1, STTHERE.org. And yeah, there's a thing that can fill out. And Operation Soul Rescue is our flagship program. Obviously, we're a small nonprofit, so donations are greatly appreciated. We also have a store. If you just want to contribute that way and buy a T-shirt or something, then that's great.
Get some merch. Why not?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much for your service as well, and thank you much for doing this kind of work with people who may get some benefit from it. Sure appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was my honor serving this country. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Eric Lionheart. What a cool name that is. So, okay. So we'll put his info in the show notes. And it looks like we're thinking that maybe it's live on YouTube after getting throttled by YouTube over the last few days, because we deigned to show information about an incident involving a pew-pew toward Trump supporters in Portland, Oregon. So I don't know. It seems like it's a little thin right now, but if you have a comment, I want to know if you're watching, listening on YouTube. Usually get a lot of people from YouTube to weigh in. So do that over at the Adult in the Room podcast. Getting some smart aleck people, whatever. Oh, sure. Why not? All right. One thing I wanted to show you to make sure that let's see, I guess I can just do this independently, can't I? Here is a letter. And on Thursday's program, we are going to unpack all the latest information that we've been able to divine about the Epstein files. And one of the things that could be a huge repository of information is based on this letter from Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And she has sent John Ratcliffe, who is the current CIA chief, a letter asking for all of the information about the Jeffrey Epstein connections with the CIA. And as we've mentioned before, Jeffrey Epstein, in all likelihood, worked with intelligence because he's bankrolling a lot of the guns and stuff like that and financing that these secret ops need to have happen in order for them to take place. Because guess what? They don't just go to the bank for them. They go to people like Jeffrey Epstein, who was a financier who could work his way around Bear Stearns for a while, and then eventually through, remember there was the CIA Bank, BCCI, and the Khashoggi connection, and all the other folks. Mike Benz talks a lot about this, just nothing but respect for him putting together the pieces. I tend to think he's right. And so I think this is going to be really an eye-opener on Thursday's edition of the Adult in the Room podcast. And we just may get some answers. So guess who went to California? Nick Shirley went to California. Now you think, okay, well, the last time we saw Nick Shirley, he was finding out about the fraudulent leering centers in Minneapolis and throughout Minnesota, about all these literally hundreds of millions of dollars pouring in to these places. And they were pouring into the places, but they weren't really pouring out into the communities that they were supposedly helping, whether they be kids with autism or whether they were hungry people or people who needed the daycares and all sorts of things. That was just going into a black hole. And so that's what happened. But now he's gone in California. So we know, because we've spoken to Linda Payne, who's with the Election Integrity Project of California. And we're going to talk to her in a couple of minutes about Nick's trip to Orange and San Diego counties, which are supposedly the repositories of any remaining folks who are in the least bit conservative mindset whatsoever. But lots of trouble there. And so I going to show you how he found this situation in those areas. Here he is, Nick Shirley's videos about trouble. Big trouble.
We're just looking for these individuals as they're registered to vote here. It's John Thomas and Philip Thomas. Is Gloria here by chance? Because she's 100 years old and she voted last election from here. Can you see my I just want to make sure you're not 126 years old. And do you think it's possible like illegal migrants could be voting?
Do you know where the ballots might have gone? Like for 108 people, that were registered here?
When it comes to fraud, most people think about money. However, there's another potential massive fraud story taking place in America, one tied to the most consequential system in our country, which is our voting system. This has to do with everything about who runs the country and how elections are actually controlled. And if we don't have voter integrity, what even are we? And there's one state that is the breeding ground for potential voting fraud, and that is California, where it can take up to 1 month to count all of the votes, no voter ID, and millions of ballots are cast by mail. And with voter rolls that are extremely vulnerable to errors, such as over 200 people who are over the age of 125 years old registered to vote in certain areas. And now to see how easy it is to vote, I headed to the location to register to vote inside the state of California. Now, this is the register of voters right here. And I want to ask them, why don't you need voter ID to vote here inside of California? I was curious, how come in California you don't need voter ID to vote?
When you sign your affidavit, you're swearing that you're telling us the truth, and we compare the signature that you put on your application.
Battery 65%.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it leaves any room for error with voter ID, or? Yeah, I'm just like curious because I want to make sure that like our elections are as fair and honest as possible. And I feel like voter ID is just something super simple to have. Do you think it's possible like illegal migrants could be voting?
Not really. How? I mean, what was showing their ID?
Yeah, if they don't have their ID and they could just sign on behalf of Richard Sherman,
Richard Sherman.
then they could technically vote, right?
Oh, come on, lady. Put your thinking cap
Yeah,
on.
what if they just don't care? What if like Richard Sherman and Bill?
Okay, hold on. Richard Sherman, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure there are many Richard Shermans, but whenever I think of Richard Sherman, that's the guy I think of. Now, so what he's saying here is that there are people who are voting in places that are not technically homes, nor are they legal places from which a person can sign up to vote. They can't register to vote from a P.O. box, for example. For example, I've had, I will have it's almost like a P.O. box place, but it's an actual address. And I think you can probably do that there if you don't want somebody to know where you are, like, for example, Antifa, that kind of thing. But, you can't live in a P.O. box, which is what he's talking about here. The other thing is that he has, and he'll find out from Linda Payne, with whom we're going to speak in just a little while, about the fact that people are, what do they call it? They call it impersonating voters. They're impersonating voters, not fraud per se. They're impersonating someone who actually has a ballot, and that's going on at a wholesale level. Here is more from Nick Shirley and his latest.
Billy Bob Joe just don't care. But so you don't think illegals would ever vote, would you?
I don't think so.
No.
Wow.
So instead of showing your ID, you sign your signature and then it's scanned to verify it is you. So technically speaking, anyone could show up saying they are someone, and if the signature is similar, that vote will then count.
Some places don't even check signatures. And the chain of custody is completely and utterly broken in the state of California, as it is all along the West Coast. Here's why. Because what they start doing is they start counting the ballots early. They don't know, for example, if you're still living where you said you lived when you registered to vote. A lot of people have moved. I still get ballots from states I don't live in. And I do it on purpose just because I haven't stopped them, just because I want to know how stupid their procedures are. Okay? So that is happening. I could vote in any number of elections, but you know what? Of course, it would be me, and I'd get arrested for it. That's probably what would happen there. And right now, the really agitating thing for me is that the U.S. Senate could fix this by requiring people to show identification and proof that they are citizens for the first time they sign up to register to vote. And for my part, get rid of motor voter. That has just been a huge issue. And some people don't even want to get signed up to vote. They just go, well, I just got here from Mexico, or I just got here from, fill in the blank country. And then all of a sudden, they're getting jury summonses. They are getting all kinds of, they're being summoned to do things, or being sent a ballot, which is illegal. In the state of California, I read about this recently the other day, as a matter of fact, like last week or something, and it was this. So there was a guy who couldn't speak English, and it was just he gets on a jury. He gets on a jury, and he doesn't understand the jury questions. He doesn't understand the words guilty and innocent, and he doesn't understand them. And all of a sudden, a guy who is a total pervert gets cut loose, and he'll have to be retried because this guy, I don't even know if he's legally in the country, but I know he can't speak English. There should be a minimum amount of English competency to get on a jury. And this guy had none of it. In fact, he was an alternate, so he hadn't been put into place at that point. And, for example, he's still on the jury, but they didn't bring him in. And then somebody had to go. Somebody said, I can't do it. So that guy becomes an alternate. And that guy doesn't understand a damn thing they're saying. And the person who's in charge, they choose a jury foreman. Ever been a jury foreman? That's fun. And the guy sends a note to the judge. And the guy sends the note to the judge saying he does not understand English. We don't have confidence that he understands guilt, innocence. We don't think he understands jury instructions. We don't think he understands much of anything. You know what the judge did? Nothing. And when later it comes out, the note from the juror is found, even though the judge blew it off. Guess what? That guy got a new trial. His previous guilty verdict, the guy voted guilty. So, you could, if you wanted to, just like blow it off and go, well, the guy voted right anyway, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That's not right either. He was denied, that pervert, a fair trial. I know. I know. It was a well-known case, by the way. And that guy is going to get a new trial. And I believe that they should have a test to determine whether or not someone understands English. Okay? And anyway, it's ridiculous. So here's Nick Shirley looking at the California voters, what's going on. He's going to places where we have post office boxes where people live. You can't register to vote from that. And other places. It's very similar to what we found in Nevada. Remember when we had the Public Interest Legal Foundation that does nothing but election law. And they found people who were registered to vote in casinos, people who were registered to vote in liquor stores, people who were registered to vote on blank pieces of ground where something had never been built. It was a joke. Anyway, back to Nick.
And with millions of people voting, it leaves room for fraud to occur. Just take these two examples.
A Southern California woman is facing 5 felonies after registering her dog to vote in 2 elections. The dog's vote was even counted in one of those elections. Those behind the stunt say she did it to show the flaws of the current system.
Hundreds of people who cast votes according to state records, but we found they've been dead for years, including a woman who died in 1988, and records show she somehow voted in 2014, 26 years after she passed away. Then there's Julita Abutin. Records show she voted in Norwalk in 2014, 2012, 2010, and 2008. The only problem is she's buried here at Forest Lawn. Abutin died in 2006.
That's voter
Is it
impersonation.
possible your mother voted in 2014?
There's no way.
Abutin's daughter Maravik says it's certainly impossible that her mother voted, but the LA County Registrar confirms they have signed vote-by-mail envelopes with her mother's name for the 2014 and 2012 election, even though she died 10 years ago.
They still don't check signatures in the state of California. They say they do, but they really don't. So there are a variety of ways that a person can get a ballot and vote the ballot. I mean, obviously, there's the idea that you can pick up someone else's ballot and then, or, for example, you're in a retirement home and the staff help you vote. And those, you would have an amazing voter turnout in those places, like 80% voter turnout. There have been cited cases where 80% of the people in this retirement center with a bunch of old people with dementia have voted. Well, wait, at a higher rate than the general populace? Why, as a matter of fact, yes. And that is SEIU, going right to bat and filling out the ballots for people. And if they can't do it themselves, there are some places where you can do that. You can fill it out for them as long as they sign it. Now, I know that the lefties that are weighing in and telling me how ugly I am and the J6 updates and the Poly Market has the Democrats winning. Let's look at that one. 83% chance to win the House this year. It was 63 not long ago. The odds of Democrats winning the Senate have also increased from 24% to 41 in recent months. Well, Polymarket is a betting line, and good for them. And they provide a service, and they're we have a little while to go, right, before the midterm elections. Let's see what happens. I know that there are a lot of people out there who just didn't like what ICE was doing or Border Patrol, and didn't like somebody getting jacked up. Well, that was the whole idea behind forcing the clash on the streets. That's why the left had all their people come to Minneapolis to bird dog the ICE officers, to get into conflicts with them, to make sure everyone had video of said conflicts. And then they urged people to determine what their willingness to break the law was. And if they were willing to go to jail, they, by all means, do what you have to do to stop them. And that's what they did. So bad look, just another psyop, if you ask me, on the part of the left versus the American people. And I get it. I do. I get it. I think that's been very unpopular. I think it's been very popular to send people away back to their home countries to break their own laws. But here you go. Nick Shirley continues.
So it's not some crazy conspiracy theory to think that people are illegally voting inside the state of California. And with the state receiving millions of illegal migrants, the opportunities for fraud now are even higher as millions of undocumented people are living inside of the state. Now let's go meet up with a man by the name of Urson, who has dedicated years of his life digging through voter rolls, finding fraud and inconsistencies throughout the state. So how bad is the voter fraud here in California?
Well, we actually don't know because law enforcement isn't really investigating it, and we don't have people qualified to actually figure that out.
And what kind of fraud is taking place?
Well, we have voter rolls of about 22 to 23 million people in California. And we have just in Orange County, per se, there's 60 to 70,000 changes a month that happens. So the amount of time and effort to go and follow up with every one of those, we just don't have the resources to do that.
Well, and they don't have the resources to do it, but the feds want to look at their voter rolls. And so they don't want the voter rolls to be seen because they will match up votes and voters. And there have been more votes than voters. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. In the last couple of elections. And that happened because the state of California sent ballots, unrequested ballots, to every allegedly active voter in the last election in COVID years on. And so that's why you ended up with multiple ballots at apartment complexes. And there were multiple ballots for one particular apartment. And there'd be 20 ballots in there. That's because that's what happened. Because there had been, maybe over a period of years, 20 people who had been active voters. But they didn't update their voter rolls. So therefore, there were people getting ballots. And there were people, literally, we know, on some occasions, people stealing the doggone ballots. And of course, you can collect ballots all you want in the state of California. They'll let you do that. And they will let you take those ballots into the county registrar of voters or what have you, wherever the elections office is. So this is a problem. There is no chain of custody. There's no legitimate legal chain of custody. It may be something that they just tolerate, but this ain't good. This just ain't good. Here we go, continuing with Nick Shirley's report.
And so what information have you been collecting about the voting fraud here in California?
We have people that are still in our rolls from 2008 that are still getting ballots mailed to them that haven't voted in 18, 16 years.
So they're inactive.
So if they haven't voted, what's the problem with them receiving those ballots?
Well, sometimes there's votes that happen later on with someone that hasn't lived here for 12 years. And we found several occurrences of that. When we turn that in, those are treated as independent incidences that don't affect the outcome of the election. So they're highly disregarded from our concerns as voters.
That's voter impersonation. So that's, okay, well, I'll just vote that ballot. And so they blow it off. So I noticed that the left is very keen on suggesting that there's absolutely infinitesimal voter fraud going on. And indeed, voter fraud may be very infinitesimal because that is what they can catch, right? Voter impersonation, almost impossible to prove, even though we know it's happening. To the extent we know it's happening, we don't know. But what we should do, what should be going on in the U.S. Senate right now, if you're unwilling to do what you can to strengthen and steelman the way in which we vote in this country, one person, one vote, and you're afraid to do that in the Senate, John Thune, shame on you. That's an affront to right and wrong. That is an affront, period. So they're having an argument right now. And the argument is over. Wow, we don't want to break the filibuster to get a vote and do a simple majority to approve the SAVE Act. It's the Save America Act, right? So we don't want to do that. But they could do it, and they don't have to break the filibuster to do it. They just have to do a filibuster. And they say, okay, we're going to open it up and we're going to allow the Democrats and the Republicans to speak and actually do a filibuster. And it's going to take some time. And it's not going to be easy, but it will certainly put into high relief the importance of having identifiable voters who we know are citizens in this country who are only given ballots, and limit the amount of mail-in ballots. In fact, I'd love to see the mail-in ballot go absentee only, and you have to actually state why, and you have to prove who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, well, black people don't have driver's licenses. That is absurd. Absurd. Did you ever see this? Where, people are so offended that they assume that the SAVE Act is, a poll tax or something. It's just ridiculous. Watch this lady. Here, I'm going to take this Nick Shirley thing. Hold on there, Nick Shirley. Here's this lady.
The same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
See, this is where my righteous anger pop up because I know what he's saying is a lie. I live in the South. I've been living in the South my whole life on the Gulf Coast. I go to vote every single time there's an election. And guess what? I show my ID. I write my signature. They check to make sure who I am. I go vote. No problems. Nobody asking me any questions. Nobody making me count the jelly beans in the jar. And quit lumping us in the people of color category. We're Black Americans. And we are citizens, and nobody is taking away our right to vote. What they are doing is they're using Black people, going back in the past, provoking emotional manipulation, because they know if they say Jim Crow or slavery, Black people are going to be like, oh my God, he's right. They're coming against us. This has nothing to do with you, Black people. Wake up. People of color he talking about is illegal migrants. They don't have IDs. That's their new voting base.
Well, I think they do have IDs. They call them undocumented aliens, but the people who come over the border illegally are some of the most documented people in the world, because what they do is they assume someone else's identity and steal other people's identity. And so they have, and by the way, they go to Oregon, Washington, California, and then they get driver's licenses. And then they go to where they really want to end up, which is another state. And then they trade that Oregon, Washington, or California driver's license in for, whatever, Georgia or wherever they want to end up to work. And that's how that works. They have some of the most ID. They used to sell identifications, fake ID, for illegal aliens in Portland at the Sukasa parking lot in Portland, because that's where the guy hung out and get you a fake ID. Anyway, continuing here.
Letting these people use you. I've been having an ID since I was 15 years old. I'm 50 years old. Every Black person I know has an ID. You need an ID to drive. You need an ID to go into a club. You need an ID to fly on a plane. You need an ID to go into another country. You need an ID to buy liquor. You need an ID to buy cigarettes. I don't know any black person without an ID. Even the poorest of the poor black people have an ID. JJ down the street that dig in the trash can that I pass by, and he always bothering me about a little bit of money. And when I feeling a little giving, I give him $5. Guess what he do? He go straight into the liquor store and go buy him some liquor. But before he do, he present his ID. So even the homeless man got an ID. Black people, y'all can keep letting these liberals play in y'all face, but Malcolm X warned y'all about these people. They're using you. This is about getting illegal migrants to vote. They don't have an ID.
That's true.
So they don't want any questions whenever they walk in there. They are the Democratic Party new voting base. They are the new slave.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, she speaks the truth. Jordan writes in, and we all know there's a huge voter fraud and mishandled voting. I truly believe that mail-in voting is the biggest problem with the illegal votes. I totally agree. I think it's the one area where it is the easiest to break the chain of custody of votes and to impersonate another voter. Let's see here. Eric writes in, the homeless people I pass every day of the year have an identification. Well, there you go. That lady, she wasn't wrong, right? Of course they do. You know why they have to do it? They got to get their check. Where do you think they have to? They have to go somewhere to get their mail. They have to be able to provide an identification. And if they don't have an identification, guess what? They get a free one from the taxpayers. That's what happens. So that they can get their Social Security check or whatever check that they want. That's true. So that lady speaks the truth. Another woman who speaks the truth, Linda Payne of the Election Integrity Project of California. And, excuse me, Linda Payne, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for coming on again. I appreciate it. I saw, we just talked with each other last night, and I wanted to make sure that we could talk about what Nick Shirley had said about voting and what the problems are. Let's take a look at some of the other portions of the Nick Shirley video that he did in California to sort of set the scene for the listeners. Let me just make sure I get this thing. I can turn this thing
What
on.
information do we have right here?
Well, we got several different pieces that we're looking at today.
Excuse me.
One thing that's just a simple anomaly for people to understand is there's people that show to be 125 years old in our voter rolls. And that's a simple data flaw. But the issue is it keeps happening over and over again to the tune of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in every county. That's a large size like where we're at today. Another one is we have a lot of voters that are at central locations, 10, 12, 15 people at a place where what is this business? What is it doing? These people are still going to continue to get ballots. Another one is like a lot of the
Did you catch what he said?
California woman is facing
those people are going to continue to get ballots. They're not attached to a voter particularly, but they will be able to get ballots. Let's stop there, Linda Payne, and find out what you thought of this video. Did you know it was coming? And the allegations made by this gentleman to Nick Shirley are certainly troubling. And I imagine you know exactly what he's talking about.
Yep. Well, we've been documenting this for years, all the way back in 2012. Actually, 2011 is the first time we started looking at voter roll data in California. In 2012, we observed the election process in 20 out of 48 counties. And by the time we finished, we were 43 counties. Bottom line, he's exactly right. And I'm very excited about what he's looking at because, you know, the propaganda that Californians are so stupid they voted to destroy themselves has been so steadfastly pushed that the rest of the country has ignored Election Integrity Project California when we have brought forward exact evidence like what Nick Shirley's talking about. They just couldn't get beyond the fact that maybe, just maybe, Californians were working hard to restore integrity and get good laws and elect good members to Congress or the county level, state level. So I'm excited about what Nick is doing because of his great work in Minnesota, people are listening. And I'm glad that he came to California, and hopefully now they'll really perk up and listen and maybe go to our website, BIP-ca.com. We have a library of documented evidence for 15 years. This is our 16th year, and it's all there. The evidence they say doesn't exist. We have made it public on our website. It's just been ignored. till now.
Yeah, they do. They do talk about the fact that nothing's provable of voter fraud in the state of California. How does it occur?
Well, we began our effort not so much looking for fraud, because fraud is a very tough thing to prove. You have to prove intent. We started at looking at the system that we, the people, use to choose our representatives. Because as Benjamin Franklin said, when asked, what have you given us, a monarchy or a republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And we haven't been keeping it. We've been trusting those in positions of power and authority to keep it for us. So the question goes, if we are a form of government based on we the people choosing our representatives, then the system we use has to be like a vault, nothing in, nothing out. And that's what we've been doing for 16 years, looking at the process. And we have proven the process of California's election system, all of it, all the laws that created the system is corrupt, and it's created somewhat of a Gordian knot of corruption with entry points of corruption, where those who know where the entry points are, like voter rolls with people who have 125 years old, or their address is living under a bridge. Those are the entry points. And those who know how to manipulate the system take those names, they attach a vote by mail voter to that name, they send it to a warehouse or a home or wherever where they mark it, and then they harvest it and turn it in. And that's the Gordian knot. You got to get rid of all of it.
Yeah. So, well, let's watch a little bit more of the Nick Shirley video, and let's find out what else he has to say, and we'll have you riff on it a little bit.
Felonies after registering her dog to vote in 2 elections. The dog's vote was even counted in one of those elections. Those behind the stunt say she did it to show the flaws of the current system.
Hundreds of people who cast votes according to state records, but we found they've been dead for years, including a woman who died in 1988, and records show she somehow voted in 2014. 26 years after she passed away. Then there's Julita Abutin. Records show she voted in Norwalk in 2014, 2012, 2010, and 2008. The only problem is she's buried here at Forest Lawn. Abutin died in 2006.
Okay, so that keeping up the voter rolls is something that's essential, right?
It is, and it actually is a bit of a challenge because 2 federal laws have created inadvertently some loopholes. The HAVA, Help America Vote Act, is not clear enough on some issues, and the National Voter Registration Act, Section 7, is one of the biggest issues, and that is where, in trying to do good, requiring everyone who is in need goes to a government agency for help, they must be given a voter registration application. And so in that application, it simply asks the question, are you a U.S. citizen? But there's no proof that you are. So that has opened the floodgates to massive numbers of people who are not eligible to vote. They're not citizens, and other issues. So until National Voter Registration Act and HAVA are updated to address those issues, those are the entry points. It's very difficult for the states to actually maintain accurate voter rolls. So some states really work at trying. California does not.
Oh no! Well, California, Washington, and Oregon are all saying to Harmeet Dillon, the head of the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, that, oh no, we're not going to give you our rolls. We're not going to let you check them out. I think Oregon got sued into it, but the other 2 states, I think, are just being fairly recalcitrant about it. So I just kind of wonder, we have this opportunity now to get the Save America Act. This is front and center. And what the hell is going on with the fact that they just don't do it? John Thune's not doing it.
Well, we know we're putting out an article tomorrow, and many organizations are as well, really trying to pull citizens across the nation together to put pressure on the Senate and Senator Thune. But this is a really silly thing to allow this. What are they calling it? The zombie filibuster? I mean, that's ridiculous. So it looks to me, I've heard some news today, it looks like they are going to look at changing that and making people come in and stand in the line, but until they do it, we need to keep putting pressure on them to do it. This is not a fringe issue. The need for proof of citizenship, proof of photo voter ID, and remove the non-citizens from the voter rolls. That every state can do, even with the issues in HAVA and NVRA. The secretaries of state can look at their voter rolls and determine if they're citizens or not. They can remove them. Even if we can't look at it, they can.
The folks, one of our liberal friends put up the poly market odds that Democrats are going to regain the House as well as the Senate. If you had to bleed, fight, and die for one issue as a Republican, this would be it.
Yeah.
Maintaining, even if you're going to lose. I can't imagine somebody losing over it, but whatever. Even if you're going to lose the election, at least if you're requiring people to show that they are a citizen, you'll get a clean election. You'll get a cleaner one than one we have now.
Well, it'll certainly improve the trust in our elections. I mean, at this point, there's really nobody who truly believes that there aren't issues in every state's election process.
Mm-hmm.
And the polling surely indicates even Democrats, 71%, have no problem with voter ID. I believe it's an 83% nationwide. So Democrats, Republicans alike, it shouldn't matter what party you are. We should all, and I think we all do, we the people, the citizens, regardless, we want to know that, okay, if my candidate lost, but it was fair, it was honest, it was transparent, I may not be happy with it, but okay, I can accept it. But right now, it's really hard to accept the outcome of elections when there's so many entry points of corruption that can flip seats. And we've watched it happen in California.
In 2018 is what you're talking about, right?
2020, 2022, every year.
What's happening there? Can you explain that?
It's because of the multiple entry points, the bad laws, the manipulation of the voter rolls. We did some research of the 2022 certified election that Secretary of State Weber sent to Congress in 2022. Well, in 2024, our data analyst group said, hey, we'd like to take a look at that exact snapshot of the data that Weber sent to Congress. And so we ordered it, and 4 months later, we got it. And my team went to work and began to analyze what was in the voter rolls. And amazingly, we found over 43,000 extra votes added to the data that was sent in 2022. So we filed a writ of mandate trying to prevent them from doing that in 2024, but we can't get any answers for them. So we're asking Department of Justice to get those answers. And, and journalists look at it. It's on our website. We have a box in there that have the 2020 letter we sent regarding that data and the 2022 research. And it's right there, live links to the reports that we gave and put out. But every state in the union should be asking the question, how did California get away with adding 43,000 extra ballots? And most of them came from LA County. And where were the seats flipped in 2022? Right down there. They were tapped into LA County, Orange County, and some districts cross over from LA County to Orange County and even San Diego County.
Yeah, so Nick Shirley went to Orange and San Diego counties, which is where they did this at least initial video. The areas where we're told that, more conservatives live. So, I mean, it's just a hot mess everywhere.
Right. There's really no safe county. There are many county registrars trying to work hard to do a better job, but LA County, here's a concern. LA County is the largest county in the country. It is larger than all but 5 states. So when LA County can manipulate the elections in LA County, they are the tail wagging the dog for all federal elections. And so every state in the union should be mad as hell. Not only California, but LA County, who you'll see in our research of that 2022 data. We have a live link to a report called Method of Voting, where we show what method did the person cast their ballot? Vote by mail, vote center, same day registration and voting. And if you scroll down on that report to LA County, the number is thousands of those who cast 2 vote by mails or a vote by mail on the same day. So the vote center law that was passed in California was supposed to prevent duplicate voting and multiple voting by using the vote centers. And yet you look at the LA County report and you wonder how were so many duplicates and triplicates cast in LA County in 2022. And we'd like to know, were those duplicates, did those take place after Weber sent the certified data to the secretary, to Congress? And so did they pack them in earlier? I mean, we have no answers, but we have a lot of questions. And I think we need the Department of Justice to bring Dean Logan, Registrar of Voter with LA County, Weber, Secretary of State, California. They need to get in front of them and testify as how they let that happen. And when did those extra 43,000 ballots get counted? Was it because we have multiple days and even a couple weeks of when vote by mail can be cast after Election Day? So how did those seats get flipped? And we think it's right there in that method of voting. You can see it right there.
So I remember talking to you years ago about the fact that people in LA County, that's where 40% of the fraud it existed, that lived there. And what they would do when there was precincts, there were the lists of people who hadn't voted yet, and people would telegraph to those people in LA County, and people in LA County, probably working for a union or something, would go find out who those people were, and then they'd sign in LA County and be able to cast a provisional vote.
Well, back in the day when we actually had just precinct voting, we had to go and there was a law in California that protected in-person voters from being impersonated. And in 2012, we had teams across 20 counties, from Shasta County down to San Diego. So we had a great smattering of all the counties. And we noticed our observers were out documenting what was happening. We were getting calls first thing in the morning that people were at these polling locations. They took down what's called the street index. It indicates who is allowed to vote there. And they were writing down the names of the voter and their address. And they needed that because later on in the day, when long lines of people were lined up to vote, holding in their hand a piece of paper, a 3x5 card, all they did is go to the first clerk and simply read the name of the voter. That clerk, instead of following the law that would have protected that voter by saying, you got to state that name out loud, they weren't being required to say, my name is John Doe. If I said my name is John Doe, that clerk would go, wait. So nothing, they didn't require it. So they took the name, checked it off, handed the piece of paper to the next clerk, who was supposed to require that person to state their address out loud. Because if they didn't know the address, they wouldn't be able to do it. But they didn't implement that law. And so they simply looked for the address. And so this person, without saying a word, went down the line to the third clerk, who simply let them sign the book. And that signature is never compared to the voter's actual voter registration affidavit. So that person voted for the voter whose name was on that piece of paper. And by the evening of 2012 election day, we were getting calls from across the state from our observers who were there saying people were coming in outraged because they went to vote after work or after school and were told they'd already voted. And sure enough, it looked like they had, but it wasn't them. It was their name and address that got logged in and voted. And that's when we saw big flips in 2012 as well. And we know that was we believed that's when those who were trying to put in place a system that could be manipulated began to test the fence of what could they do if ballots had to go in an envelope where they had to be processed by someone else. And Pew Research Center in 2012 said California cast 40% of all provisional ballots nationwide. Because all those voters who came in the evening, they were given a provisional ballot and said, you can vote, it's okay, you can vote, provisional ballot, put it in an envelope. But those don't count if it's shown that they voted in person. And it looked like they voted in person. So they were lied to. They didn't vote, but they cast a provisional ballot to feel better.
Wow.
That's when it began here in California. And that's what we've been documenting since 2012, the process. So fraud, you catch a few little fish. If you can identify that the process is being developed to be rigged through these entry points, now you've caught this system. And President Trump is right. We're going to lose our country. We need the SAVE Act to be passed. And what's just been dropped last week or week before was the MEGA Act, the Make Elections Great Again Act. And that can't be passed until 27. Excuse me. But that mega act captures all of the elements, all but 2 of the elements in our proposal to Congress, asking them to correct the whole thing.
And so, but correct what whole thing? I mean, what are we looking at? The proof of citizen.
The whole system. So in our proposal, we lay out all the evidence we have from all these years, showing how each of the elements of the voting system, from the voter rolls to where you vote, to do you have to show ID, to how many people can get a vote by mail, all those things, all those elements, we carefully laid out in our proposal, and we linked every point we made with our reports and with letters we sent to Department of Justice and our civil rights hearing, so that we could prove to them that we're not just suggesting these 17 issues are real. We've proven that these 17 issues are where the entry points of corruption exist. And unless Congress provides federal comprehensive election integrity legislation, those entry points can still be entered. So the SAVE Act is a good step. It's going to help us with 2016. It has to be passed. It at least will ensure that only citizens vote. But those manipulating all those ballots that are out there, people who live under the bridges, it's not going to protect against that, but it's going to do a lot. It's going to give us a better, more honest outcome in 26. But right now, all through this year, citizens need to be on it with the MEGA Act and support members of Congress, press them to get that passed. We'd like to ask Congress to amend it and add one more thing. They didn't include the top 2 primary.
Yes.
We'd like them to add that to the MEGA Act.
Stop it.
And send it through. That if they could do that, they will have taken that Gordian knot and, like with a sword, and cut it in half, and that's it. Then our system really is more like a vault. Right now, the election system in California and the country is like a sieve.
Yeah.
But it needs to go back to being a vault.
I'm looking at your MEGA Act, Make Elections Great Again. Require paper ballots or voter verifiable device assisted ballots. Why is it important? And I know President Trump talks a lot about the paper ballot situation. Explain to me why that's essential.
Well, unless you have a paper ballot that's watermarked like money, paper ballots can be manipulated. You can make copies of them. We've documented that.
Yeah, that's happened.
Making copies of them, stuff them in those ballots that were mailed out to people who don't exist, duplicates.
That happened in Pennsylvania, too, in 2020.
Country. It's no longer just California. It's the whole country.
Prohibition of vote tabulation until 8 p.m. on Election Day. What are they doing with them now, and why would this help?
You know, we've always had a problem in California because we saw it all the way back in 2012, our first time out. Everyone's in line ready to vote, and they finished voting in New York.
Right.
So they've tabulated in New York, and the media starts talking, oh, here she's winning, this kind of whatever. And you can see it by the time you get to California on the West Coast, people say, well, why bother then? And you see people leave the lines, the discouragement if they've already called the election for President so-and-so, and the polls are still open in California. It's even worse in Hawaii. So no, to be a true, fair, honest election, we have to, the tabulation has to stop on Election Day, period, end of story. Ballots have to come in. And we didn't put it in there, but we'd like to ask the media to respect the West Coast. And you can make predictions all you want, but when you start calling it, California hasn't even voted yet. I mean, that's another entry point of corruption, that the media has way too much power to determine the outcome of elections by suppressing the vote of people on the West Coast.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they stopped that. Remember, well, I mean, what do I know? I just have been in the media for years. I just thought, remember when I think it was Jimmy Carter's election, and people just got out of line. Oh, he won, so therefore, it's over, kind of a thing. And I didn't realize that they were still doing that with regularity.
2020 Fox News called the election.
Oh yeah.
For Biden. In Arizona, the ballots from northern Arizona hadn't even been driven down to Maricopa County yet. And yet it was called. So that's what I mean. That's just wrong. All of the ballots need to be counted across the United States before they can call it.
Have you ever figured out why there was a an action wherein 5 states stopped counting at the same time?
You know what? We've never figured out how all of a sudden these 5 states just stopped counting at the same time. But what we do know with some of the voting machines like Dominion,
Mhm.
California, we've identified that certain counties at a certain point stopped counting, like Ventura County stopped counting at 5 o'clock, and all of a sudden they started counting later. And we have some evidence that it looks like there was some manipulation with the Dominion machine.
Really? Hey,
Yeah.
you're not a crackpot either. You're like a normal lady who's been doing this for years.
Right.
I mean, I remember in 2004, oh, it's those other machines, and the left was all freaked out about them, and then now the Dominion, whatever. And anyway, keep talking. I just want to hear.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's why really it needs to go back to single day voting. And if they feel like there needs to be more, our recommendations, okay, go with 4 days. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Because if you're working or you're taking care of like my mom was aging at one point, she ended up being very sick. We had to get her to a hospital on election day, and I didn't get to vote that day because I had to take care of my mom. So maybe we go 4 days. But do we need more than a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? No. So you have election day on a Tuesday, you have the day before where you go to work, drop it off, whatever, if you want to, or go in and vote, not dropping it off. We really think go in and vote the day early in person, show your photo ID. Or if you're working huge hours and you can actually go in and vote on a Saturday, Sunday, then do it then. But something that's not like the vote centers in California, they're open like for 2 weeks. And we've already shown nobody comes in 2 weeks early to vote in person. They just put the vote by mail ballot in. So that
How is it that they can man those voter places, and yet on the election night they have to go home early? They just can't stay late to count votes. What's going on there?
Well, very suspect in our opinion as well. Or how about Orange County 2024? They said, oh, there's a bomb scare. All the observers got to go. But amazingly, the workers didn't have to go. It's exactly what you're talking about. Why get rid of the observers? Because it's too dangerous, but the workers can stay and keep working. Yeah, there's too much suspicion around it. And that's why there's no confidence in the election process. And that's why the SAVE Act has to pass this year to at least protect what it can. But for next year, as the mega act goes through the House and the Senate, the citizens need to become as educated as they can about it. And that's what we've been doing, is educating them about why these elements in the mega act have to be passed. That will eliminate the entry points of manipulation. And there are so many.
Okay.
So citizens together, we need to get behind both of them. One this year, and the mega act will pass 27.
Let's hope to your lips to God's ears. Okay, this is an interesting one. I don't usually get into conspiracy theories too much, but rumor is, according to Leo Zagami, China owns the Democratic Party, including Newsom, pretty much the entire state. 54 electoral, I think, votes, cost plenty, lots of corruption. Anything about that rings any bells for you?
No, we really stay away from rumors. Our organization has always been based on fact. And if we don't have the evidence to stand behind what we're saying, we don't say it.
Right.
Because there's too much out there. We want people to trust our evidence. So, and to me, it doesn't matter what that rumor was. The facts are damning enough. We think that's what should be taken forward and proven that the system has to be eliminated and the mega act must be passed.
I imagine that somebody, people ask you questions like that just so that you'll step into a big political cow patty and get smeared with it. Here's a little bit more of this report that Nick Shirley had compiled. Here's a little bit more. I want you to watch it with me, and we'll talk about a little bit more of this on the other side.
Is it possible your mother voted in 2014?
There's no way.
Abuteen's daughter Maravik says it's certainly impossible that her mother voted, but the LA County Registrar confirms they have signed vote-by-mail envelopes with her mother's name for the 2014 and 2012 election, even though she died 10 years ago.
So it's not some crazy conspiracy theory to think that people are illegally voting inside the state of California. And with the state receiving millions of illegal migrants, the opportunities for fraud now are even higher, as millions of undocumented people are living inside of the state.
That's true.
Now let's go meet up with a man by the name of Urson, who has dedicated years of his life digging through voter rolls, finding fraud and inconsistencies throughout the state.
So how bad is the voter fraud here in California?
Well, We actually don't know because law enforcement isn't really investigating it, and we don't have people qualified to actually figure that out.
And what kind of fraud is taking place?
Well, we have voter rolls of about 22 to 23 million people in California. And we have just in Orange County, per se, there's 60 to 70,000 changes a month that happens. So the amount of time and effort to go and follow up with every one of those, we just don't have the resources to do that.
And so what information have you been collecting about the voting fraud here in California?
We have people that are still in our rolls from 2008 that are still getting ballots mailed to them that haven't voted in 18, 16 years.
And so if they haven't voted, what's the problem with them receiving those ballots?
Well, sometimes there's votes that happen later on with someone that hasn't lived here for 12 years. And we found several occurrences of that. When we turn that in, those are treated as independent incidences that don't affect the outcome of the election. So they're highly disregarded from our concerns as voters.
And what information do we have right here?
Well, we got several different pieces that we're looking at today. One thing that's just a simple anomaly for people to understand is there's people that show to be 125 years old in our voter rolls. And that's a simple data flaw. But the issue is it keeps happening over and over again to the tune of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in every county. That's a large size like where we're at today. Another one is we have a lot of voters that are at central locations, 10, 12, 15 people at a place where what is this business? What is it doing? These people are still going to continue to get ballots. Another one is like a lot of the sororities in the dorm houses, where we have typical turnout, or voter turnout is like in the 50 to 70% range, but it's like 106 out of 108 votes cast. So it doesn't mean that that's fraud, but it means these are out of the normal order of what happens. And so that's what we're going to be going around and looking at today and seeing what's out there and what we can find. We have a system where you can register to vote in California without a driver's license number or social security number. Why do we allow that? That creates 9.6 million records that then the state has to send to the Social Security Administration. And when 75% of those come back with no matching Social Security record, it should make every California wonder, why do we have a system like that? Why do we have a system that's creating work and uncertainty?
And so what have you done to get this information about the voter fraud that's taking place here in California?
Well, we get our information from the Secretary of State. We get it directly from them. It's a lot of information and it's very complex. And so we get this from the state, we package it up, and we help with our other researchers across the state that go and break it down into their own counties.
So we have all this information, and now we're going to go head out into the streets of California and see what fraud we can find.
Okay. This is very interesting. Anything that you saw that there was a problem with that at all?
No, we've been proving this for years. We've been saying the same thing and providing, in fact, on our website where we show the two reports for 2020. You can see what he was talking about. People are on there and they never remove them. And they don't because they can use that name and just someone can vote for them. And people say, oh, that never happens. But that's why we don't look for fraud. We look for process because it's the process that's being manipulated. That's what he's describing.
I see. Okay, let's watch a little bit more here. This is Nick Shirley's report at his X account, Nick Shirley, and
where's the first place we're going?
We're going to the local retirement community, and the reason this one is just kind of particularly odd, you got 45 people registered, and 41 of them actually turned out to vote in the last election. So that's just, again, not typical for 55 to 70% turnout. So it's a mental crisis senior rehabilitation center. So we're just going to go there and see, is there 45 people there? Is there beds? And check it out. Can we speak to a supervisor?
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, it looks like there was maybe 41 of 45 people that are registered here. Does that seem low or high to you? Like as far as how many patients or residents you have?
That's probably not accurate anymore.
So that lady right there said that that's probably not accurate.
Right.
So this could be a huge location where hundreds of votes could be casted from this one location.
Okay, so SEIU helping everybody vote. Is that what the kind of message we're getting here?
Absolutely. And we tried over the years to get into some of the senior facilities to educate them on how to protect their own vote, but we weren't allowed in. But we identified, we had observers go and observe their process. And we documented in one room, they had a woman who was in a coma, and there was someone there helping her cast her vote. So it is we called the seniors and the homeless and non-citizens vulnerable populations.
Uh-huh.
And they are the ones who are really preyed on by those who are they are purposely manipulating those open doors. But and we even have people who contact us and said, my mom is in a home. She has dementia. She has the capacity of a 3-year-old, and yet she's voting every year. And that's because what they're talking about. We couldn't go in and talk to any voters, and yet someone is going in and helping them vote. And they say, we've got it covered. League of Women Voters comes in and helps, and these other groups help. And so we said, well, why can't Election Integrity Project California come in and simply come into your shared room and do a training on how to protect their vote? No, couldn't do that.
Wow. Okay, let's keep watching.
Location. She said that numbers sound like they're inaccurate. 41 out of 45.
Correct. So is there a lot more people that could be registered to vote and could be having their voices expressed?
Well, let's move on to the next location.
You got it.
Now we're here in the University of San Diego because they got lots of voters here. But what's the deal with this location?
It's some sort of institute for peace and justice. So it doesn't seem like you'd have a lot of voters like registered at some sort of an administrative office, but it very well could be. You know, I mean, there's students that are all over the place here. So maybe it's some sort of a central mailing house or something like that.
You have a conference room, you have Garden of the Sky, the Kroc School, classrooms, conference rooms, anything but dorms. And this is the location where 58 people are registered to vote here inside of the state of California.
Well,
you know, the big problem with colleges is students are told in their classrooms and get out the vote or register to vote. They're being told that they can register to vote, but they're never asked, are you here on a scholarship from another state? Because if they are on a scholarship from another state, then they can't register to vote in California. They have to register to vote in their home state. And if they do register to vote and vote in California, they can lose their scholarship. And we provided that information for years, warning the colleges and the Secretary of State and asking them to pass laws that will protect students who are here on scholarship. But that's never been, and it's never looked into. But, you know, we found the colleges were a huge harvesting area where kids were being told by their teachers to go vote, and if they voted for this person, they would get extra credit. So we have lots of incident reports of students saying, well, I'm here to vote, and I was told if I voted for so-and-so, I'd get extra credit, and so I'm in line to vote. Yeah,
wow.
but again, nothing's been done about it until now, and that's where I'm excited that we have years of hard copy citizen incident reports, EIPC incident reports, signed under penalty of perjury, of stories just like what I'm describing to you, proving that vulnerable populations are in fact being manipulated.
Let's keep watching.
Is this like a central mailing location, like this building for students and stuff?
No, this one is not. So we do have a mail center.
Because right here on the John B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice, it says we had 58 registered to vote, and 50 people voted from this location.
So is 5998 Alcala Park? You're saying is that
Entire university.
is the entire university. So where do the ballots go?
I have no clue.
Okay.
I've never seen them.
So far, we're 0 for 2 as far as getting any clarity about where these votes are being cast from here.
Yeah, really any sort of real clarity.
And at these locations, when there's only around 40 to 50 people registered to vote, in locations where there's hundreds and thousands of people, it leaves lots of room for speculations, especially when nobody actually knows what the real count is and where the votes are being casted from. And just a reminder, all this information from Urson is the most up-to-date information from the Secretary of State of California as far as the voter rolls go. The fraud continues. Now we're outside of a extra space, a storage unit location. Here, 5 people are registered to vote.
Correct.
Did they cast their votes?
3 of them did in the 24 election. Then we had 1 that cast a ballot in the 2020 election and 1 that's never voted. The point is that unless this is a primary residence, right, or where you can sleep, right, which no one's supposed to by law allowed to sleep in their public storage unit, then this is not a legal registration. And these are the things that the county continues to let slip through the cracks.
Linda Payne. This happens a lot, doesn't it?
Well, since 2012, we've been documenting that same thing. We've had, in 2014, we had 2 mailbox stores contact us and ask, what should I do with all these ballots in box number 5, for example? And one said, I've got 50 in box 5. That's supposed to be a resident. Another one said, I've got 100. What do I do? And so we said, well, you've got to give them back to the registrar of voters. But the question is asked, how did 50 to 100 ballots get mailed to one post office box? And who forgot to pick them up? Because whoever forgot to pick them up let the cat out of the bag, but that's what some organized effort is doing.
You know, I've heard over the last, I guess maybe it was a 2020 election, there were, multiple ballots going to apartment complexes, and people would go in there and then they'd take the ballots and they'd have them delivered, and then they'd go in and whoosh, grab them and vote them.
Right. That's where a lot of people will have their mail sent to a post office box, because if their apartment complex is not secure, so you have to register to vote at your domicile where you live, but your vote materials can be mailed to a post office box.
They can.
They can, but you can't register at a post office box. That's the distinction.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep watching. There's a few more minutes here.
Let's see if they're here. We have the names of all 5 people. Let's see if they're here. How's it going, sir?
How are you doing today?
Good. We're just looking for a few people here. We have Lily Morey, Philip Thomas, Sydney Thomas, Robert Thomas. We're just looking for these individuals as they're registered to vote here.
Yeah.
Do you have people that live here at extra space?
Are you Robert Thomas?
Oh, okay. Okay, so who gave you this list real quick?
Oh, from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, it's publicly available information.
What about Robert, Sydney, Philip, and Lily Thomas? What about them? They also get their ballots here? Robert Thomas, Sydney Thomas, John Thomas, and Philip Thomas. Do you know where any of those individuals are? Any of the Thomases?
No, they're not here right now.
They're not here right now.
Storage facilities, right? That's
No,
really
right?
the question, right? Just wondering if people are actually living in storage facilities.
So 5 people are registered to vote here. They confirm that nobody lives here. A little fishy. California's got some weird things going on. So 5 people, and they didn't know where any of the Thomases were, but this is their primary location.
Well, if those 2 people actually live here and this is where they stay, their primary residence, right? They get their driver's license here, their tax stuff comes here. It's completely legal. But the other people that are here that they didn't know or do know or so forth, right? Are they someone that was just getting something in a storage facility? So,
but this is a storage facility. There's no apartments here.
No.
Nobody's living here.
And by the way, if you're living in a storage facility, where's your mailbox? I mean, if your ballot gets delivered there, I'm sure they have a PO box somewhere that is not. So this is just on again, the same crap, and nobody wants to clean it up for obvious reasons, because hey, it works for the Democrats.
not inside the storage facilities. But if the couple that we spoke to is actually, this is their primary residence.
Okay.
Well, you have to, I don't know. When people have asked us, so why do they keep doing it? And we simply say, follow the money and who's benefiting from it.
You're right.
So we are nonpartisan. Our research has always been nonpartisan. But if you look at the evidence, it points you to those
One
answers.
party.
So who's benefiting and where's the money? But in order to fix it, Congress has to act, because Californians have lost the ability to choose. They really have, when you can manipulate it like this.
So Nick's video came out last night. What kind of ripple effect do you think has been occurring today as a result of this video?
Well, I hope that it's going far and wide, because like I say, EIPCA, our work has been like quashed and silenced and blocked from any media covering it. And so, this is our hope, that the rest of the country will start to see that propaganda that California voted to destroy themselves is exactly that. It's propaganda. Our evidence proves that. But what you're seeing, Urson and Nick, just simply talking to people, we've been doing it. Other organizations have been doing exactly what they're doing now since 2012, providing that evidence to people in positions of power and authority, from the county to the state to the Department of Justice, and it's all been quashed. So I'm hoping it's going far and wide.
Did he call?
We're not getting a voice. So you want them to get a voice and get it out there.
How is it that you didn't get the call to do this video with Nick Shirley, or did you? I don't even know. I assume so.
No, we didn't. But that's sort of how it is. It's sometimes there's politics even on our side.
Yeah.
Who scratches each other's back, and we just try to stay out of the fray. We know that our evidence has to be trusted, and that's where we've done all these years. And when we provided this to Speaker Johnson back in May, we were working on it. We did our proposal, a draft of it in May, and to the 20 members of Congress in September. Ruth, my vice president, and I flew out to Department of DC, and we met with one of my board members from DC, and we took packets with the flash drive of our proposal to 20 legislators, including Congressman Stiles and I think it's Lauren Lee. These are the ones who put legislation together regarding elections, and provided them with our evidence. And that's what you showed on the website, that long box. We have an appendix of all of the linked reports and research. And we've always known that one day that evidence has got to count, and it can't be questioned. Oh, well, it was political, or they made it up. So that's why sometimes we're not popular within the election integrity world, because there's a lot of back scratching with people on the East Coast. And we love what they do, but we're on the West Coast, and it takes a lot of money to fly over there and have a voice on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But we are excited with what Congress is doing now. That mega act, I say hurrah to the California volunteers for 20 years who've helped to get this document together. Because the fact that all but 2 of our points are in the mega act, it tells me they looked at our document. It's laid out there. They pulled what they needed to pull. And if we don't get credit for it, I don't care. It's like what Reagan said. If you don't get credit, but the job gets done, our goal is to save the country, that this evidence save the country and prove that without an election system that is like a vault, it can't be manipulated, we will lose our country one day.
Yeah. Let's watch the last couple of minutes of Nick Shirley's report, because it's highly entertaining and it's an eye-opener.
What are you trying to do, or what are you trying to prove?
Yeah, so you have to re-register where you live, right? Where your primary residence is. And so if you've got a primary residence that's a UPS store, there's a real tiny houses, inside the UPS store for people to live in.
Probably. What's your guys' affiliation?
My name's Nick Shirley.
Yeah.
Could you live inside a PO box?
No.
So do you think it's a little strange that here in California you have lots of people who are registered to vote from these PO boxes? Meanwhile, you don't even have to show your ID when you go and vote.
I don't want to be part of the whole MAGA storyline. Thank you.
This isn't a MAGA storyline, man. This is just the straight up facts. Now we're going in. How are you guys doing? Yeah. Could we talk to somebody? No. This is super important. It has to do with our elections here, ma'am.
Can someone come and talk to us?
Is Gloria here by chance? Because she's 100 years old and she voted last election from here. All right, so they won't even speak to us. Do you know Gloria? She's 100 years old. She voted last election here. She's supposed to live in one of these PO boxes.
Well, no, I had no idea.
A little strange, right? Yeah. Sir, have you ever met like a Gloria or anything? She's supposed to live in one of these PO boxes. She voted.
No.
No idea. And another thing that's super concerning about all this fraud taking place is right now the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is also leading the way on Play Market as to who's going to be the Democrat nominee in 2028. What do you think it says about states that don't require people to have voter ID?
It's like inconsistent, so people can kind of like tweak it however they want. So I don't know. I don't trust it. That's why.
Should states require people to show voter ID when they go and vote?
100%. Like I think people should be verified that that's them voting and that's like them as a person. Like that needs to be like a face-to-face action. If they can't, there needs to be another way of verification.
And what makes you think that way? A lot of people don't think that way about voter ID.
I don't know. I think it's just like a common sense thing. Like it should be you that's voting and like your vote that's going through. So it's not just like anybody.
Do you think people would pass you off for Ralph Salcido if you just said you're Ralph Salcido?
No. Like if I said that to me, they'd be like, really? If I walked up and like I said, oh yeah, I'm 100 years old, they'd be like, what? You can't like fake age. So
this building here.
Well, apparently you can. I like the 100-year-old woman who lived in a PO box, but you said that was not necessarily illegal for somebody to receive a ballot at. But she's registered. She's registered there.
the problem. You can't register there. You register at your domicile, and that's what the law says, at your domicile where you lay your head.
Mhm.
But if you want to pick up your mail at a post office box, you just have your ballot mailed there, and then you go pick it up. You cast your ballot, then you mail it in. So that's just ballot materials, but you cannot register at a mailbox store or a post office or a business of any kind.
And do you find that often?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep watching.
Here in downtown San Diego, there's over 16 people who are registered to vote at this address right here. And would it surprise you if inside of this building alone, there's 15 people registered to vote, yet all the windows are boarded up.
Oh, one of the business was Ducats, and I never saw anybody go in or out of there.
15 people are registered to vote, and a lot of them voted in the 2024 election.
Doesn't surprise me. This is California for a reason.
Do you think voter fraud takes place here in California?
100%.
And do you trust Gavin Newsom?
No, not at all. You could tell by the way he talks. He never wants to answer a real question. Let's see, he calls ICE, basically calls them out, calls them terrorists. In some ways, I kind of hope he runs for president. That means someone else is going to get governor, and if he doesn't make it as president, his political career is done.
Oh, it won't be. He's termed out anyway.
Right now in Polymarket, he's leading for the Democrats as far as who's going to be the next nominee.
Yeah, Kamala was leading. Look how that went.
Do you think California should require voter ID?
Do I think that voters should require voter ID?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
Why?
How come you need an ID when you go to the airport?
I don't know why you got to do that either.
So do you think it's possible to have fair elections here in the United States if people don't prove who they actually are by giving their ID when they go and vote?
That's too. I can't even answer that. Because I'm like this. If you here, you can vote. It's just too much paperwork.
Too much paperwork.
Yeah, too much bureaucracy, too much stuff. It's just too much.
So when you go vote, you don't want to show your ID?
Nah. Heck no, for what?
To prove that you are you.
I mean, me anyway. Me anyway.
So no ID?
Nah.
What if I wanted to vote on behalf of your name?
Why would you want to do that? Tell me why I want to do that, and then I can make a decision.
What if I wanted you to vote Democrat and you're a Republican?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, yeah, that's a point. But I still ain't approving of it.
We headed to the next location, and it was the exact same thing where tons of people were registered to receive votes from a P.O. box. So we were wondering, do these people live here?
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, are they living inside the post
This is the
office?
address of the post office, right?
Yeah.
This isn't like their mailing address. That's like their actual like registration address. Do you see ballots that have like PO box on them and things?
Yeah.
And it's not a problem if someone is registered here to receive their ballot, but if this is their primary residence, that is a problem. And that's what the case is for all these people right here.
And it's an illegal registration based on state law.
This leaves a lot of leeways for people to vote fraudulently, whether it be ballot harvesting or them just voting on behalf of somebody else.
And that's the thing that we have the greatest concern, right? 23 million ballots go through some process. This is one post office in one city in one county in our entire state, right? So it just has an exponential impact when you add up all the little small things that are going on.
Yeah. And they don't count for much either, because as he previously said about the people who look into these things, well, they don't consider it to be that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker for the election times, but of course it's times, X plus.
My time is way.
You got to go. I appreciate you coming on to the Adult in the Room podcast. Thank you so much, Linda. I sure appreciate it. So the same crimes, the same fraud, the same thing over and over and over again.
As you can see, there's a lot of issues with these voting rolls and a lot of inconsistencies. And one of these inconsistencies is people over the age of 100 years old that are eligible to vote. For instance, there's a lot of people over the age of 125. And in this video, we just filmed around a 15-mile radius. So imagine what it's like all across the state of California. And now let's go see if there's actually 126-year-olds voting in California. Are you Doris?
She's right here. Yes.
Hello, Doris.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
We're just going through the voting rolls here, and we're just confirming anybody who's above the age of 100 years old. And right here it says you're 126 years old.
No, you got the wrong house.
Are you Doris Wood?
Yeah, but you got the wrong house. I'm Doris, but you got the wrong place. That's the wrong information, all that stuff. No, that's wrong.
Oh, here, I can show you if you like.
No, it's just that it's wrong.
How come you think here in California they're just messing up on all these voting rolls here?
I don't know, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it says you voted in 51 elections, Doris.
No, not me.
Really?
I'm not no 100-some years old.
I know.
I
I just want to make sure you're not 126 years old. Yeah, it really does say you're 126 years old here.
No.
Says,
Who did this? You be 126. That don't even make sense.
I know that's
The Secretary of State's office, Doris. That's who says you're 126 years old. And, we know that this is some sort of glitch in the software. But the fact is that they're not going to be, if they go, oh, there's a glitch in the software. These people aren't really 125 years old. And will they go after the people who, they'll just assume that anybody who voted, there's just, that was just a glitch. They didn't count. Well, what if somebody's voting the ballot? What if that person is not being represented by one ballot, one vote? What then? Well, what then is that they are, their vote's been stolen. This is happening a lot. So I commend Nick Shirley for doing this and going out and putting some meat and muscle on this issue in the state of California so people know how ridiculous this is, because it's important. Yeah. Okay. I have one more thing I wanted to share with you, but I guess I can't find it. It's okay. It's fine. We were going to talk a little bit about Marco Rubio selling the American West, selling Western civilization with Europe, and the idea that it's worth promoting, it's worth saving. Couldn't agree with him more. If you did not see his speech over the weekend at the Munich Security Compendium, then by all means go and watch it. We don't running out of time today, but I just want to say thank you very much. And I'm glad that some folks from YouTube are back. We've had so many issues with them over the past few days, and I'm still trying to figure out what's the latest in the story that caused us to be throttled by YouTube and not disallowed from live streaming for a few days. And I got this note from the Portland Police Bureau, and you're not going to believe this, but they were very, very busy yesterday. They were celebrating President's Day. And so that's why they couldn't be bothered to, talk to me and give me the update on why this woman hasn't been arrested yet, the Pew lady. Other than that, just Godspeed to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed away today. I hope I can get this. Let's see if I can share this tab. Here's one of his famous sayings over the years. I hope they don't play a commercial here. Let's figure it out. Let's see if we can play this.
I may be poor, but I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am.
I like this, ladies.
I may be uneducated, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected. I must be protected. I am somebody.
Oh, so Jesse Jackson getting up the crowd going, and he did a lot of positive things for the Black community, I imagine, and fantastic. What a legacy. I remember when he ran for president in 1988, and I was happy to see it because he actually made it far more interesting making it a 3-person race. I was trying to remember who was running against him then. Maybe it was H.W. Bush, and I don't remember who the Democrat was, but he comes as I think it must have been an independent. Anyway, he made things much more interesting. And in recent years, he's been sort of on the sidelines as the Benjamin Crumps of the world, and others have created a model to make money from, race grifting, if you will. Crump does for sure. But he's sort of been put on the sidelines, but now he's gone to his great reward. So God bless and Godspeed. All right. You have a great week, and I'll see you on Thursday, where we're going to unpack the Jeffrey Epstein files a little bit more, because there are millions of the files, but so interesting. And the letter to the CIA asking for more information about Jeffrey Epstein's connection to the CIA, confirmation that Jeffrey Epstein thought he was a spy for the Mossad, and much, much more. And we'll be back here again, 1 p.m., 12:55 p.m. Pacific, for as long as it takes to get through it. All right. See you on Thursday. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter, when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and The Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.